taking a breath. Now you got to talk about who's going to replace all these guys. I know that a lot of that, much of that's going to be sorted out with a great recruiting class coming in, arguably the best in college football, rated number 1 right now. The spring practices are going to be huge for a lot of these position battles. And then I'm sure a lot of time is going to be determined, a lot of playing time deep into August even, because it's such, like you mentioned, a veteran team turning into a young team.
Georgia's going to be looking for guys to make replacements in the linebacker group, in the secondary, even in the running back group, and along with the wide receivers. I'll start with the outside linebackers. You have DeAndre Walker, who really showed out in the last few games of the season, proving to the Georgia fans that, despite Lorenzo Carter and Davin Bellamy leaving, I got this position. Like, I'm very well aware that I'm going to have to step up. And when he announced that he was coming back, it was very personable, and like, I'm ready to come in and make my stance and become this leader of the defense. But you also have Monty Rice, Walter Grant, who are 2 freshmen inside that can do inside. Well, Monty is kind of like an inside linebacker, Roquan Smith-ish kind of guy. Would not compare the two at all, but that's probably where Kirby and them will end up sticking him. Walter Grant kind of reminds me of he reminds me of a Lorenzo Carter. I'm trying to think of what's the outside linebacker's name that came in before Lorenzo Carter? Ooh, I can't believe I can't think of his name right now.
Ray McWilson?
He wore number 47. Or 40, is either 42 or 47. Anyway, he reminds me a lot of him, and with his long arms and his reach and his ability to see the field well and attack the ball, he showed a lot of promise this season. I think he's going to have a lot of playing time. Moving to the secondary, you have so many young guys coming in. I mean, there's Richard LeCount, who got a lot of playing time this past season, who will probably end up winning a starting spot. You have J.R. Reed that's returning for his senior season. Those 2 guys alone can make a real stance in the secondary. But then you also have Amir Speed, who is 6'2" or 6'3", who is more like a kind of like a Minka Fitzpatrick build. He's big, but he's quick enough to play in those positions. I'm excited to see what Kirby and Tucker bring out of him. Not to mentioning like the guys that are coming that are in 2018. I'm trying to Chris Smith off the top of my head. But moving on to the running backs, not to get too rambly. You have DeAndre Swift. You have Zamir White coming in. You have James Cook coming in. Not to mention you also have Elijah Holyfield and Brian Harrion all there. So Georgia might be losing probably 2 of the best running backs in its history, but they're replacing it with guys that could potentially break their records and be better than Sony Michel or Nick Chubb. And I think that's another reason why Nick Chubb and Sony Michel came back, not to just help the team win games and be there and be a part of that crazy season that they did, but to also mentor these young guys and to show them the Georgia way, how to handle things, what to do, how to train a certain way, and become that next great back. And so I think Georgia's got high hopes for them in the running back area. And then wide receivers, you're losing Javon Wims, who was Jake Fromm's favorite target, but you saw in the national championship game with Riley Ridley and Terry Godwin, they can step up and make plays. I think Riley Ridley really needs to have a inside come to Jesus meeting with himself and stand out. Like, he is a junior now. I believe he's going to be a junior. He is going to have to step up. He's going to have to make plays and not just do it one game of the year. I don't think that he had very many catches before the national championship game, and then all of a sudden he exploded onto the scene. And then Terry Godwin is going to have a monumental senior season because you're losing Javon Wims, a big, big guy. However, Georgia is looking at bigger wide receivers recruiting-wise. And then for the 2017 class, they brought in this kid, Matt Landers, 6'5", 175, 185. He's probably put on muscle. I haven't seen him since, oh, good Lord, well, I saw him for the national championship practice that we got to watch. But he's put on a little bit of muscle. He's growing into his body, and I think that's going to be a next Javon Wims type of guy because he's big, he's got sure hands, and he could very well make a stance next season. But I think Georgia's that's one thing that differentiates this Georgia team from years past. They are reloading in areas that they're losing star players at, and they're reloading with players young enough that coaches can develop them and influence them to be these great players and attempt to get all that out on the field. So I think Georgia has it's a reloading season and a rebuilding season because they're going to be very young on the second end of the defense. But at the same time, due to the fact that a lot of probably 90% of the majority of these kids who played got playing time last year, so they're going to have some experience. It's just going to be them stepping up and taking that leadership role that they need to.
Riley Ridley with 8 catches during the regular season. Then he caught 6 in the national championship game.
Yeah, so
there you go.
He needs to, in my opinion, I follow a lot of them on social media, and he's probably one of the least ones that it's not all about the team. It's more about him. So I think he needs to have a inside meeting with himself and just kind of like, do I want to do this for myself or do I want to do this for the success of the team? And I think he showed that in the national championship game, but hopefully it'll carry over into the upcoming season.
So, Savannah, I've been racking my brain coming up with recent linebackers at Georgia. This is who I've come up with. So Ray Drew, Jordan Jenkins, Leonard Floyd, Amarlo Herrera, Jarvis Jones, and Alex Ogletree.
Leonard Floyd is the one that reminds me the most of Walter Grant.